how your will can determine your destiny. Hi, I'm Brian Pombo. Welcome back to the Orange Office in Grants Pass, Oregon. Once again, this is one of our Brian J. Pombo live talks. Today, we are continuing our three-part series, all on the psychology of your customer's brain and delving deep into the cognitive. We didn't spend too much time on the cognitive. Cognitive is how much they know, what they know about you, what they think about you, things that they have learned about you and anything involving your product or service. Second thing would be the affective, which we talked about yesterday. You can go back and watch that video. And the third thing today is all about the third part of the mind called the conative. And when we're talking about conation, we're talking about your doing and action mode. It's a completely different part of the brain. And the real question is how do you do and act? How do you put out effort? How do you build? How are you creative when you're working in any sort? So whether it be when you were in school, how did you handle things? And also at work, in your current job or at your favorite job, how was it different? How did it function differently, and how did you relate back with it? It's less of an emotional end of things, and it's more of the logic of what drives you to do what you do. So when I'm talking about will, I'm talking about will in the sense of action, in the sense of effort, in the sense of building something, putting something together, doing something. When you feel like you're at your highest in your action mode, where are you at? So this is a concept that's been really promoted the most that I've heard by a lady named Kathy Kolbe, Kolbe. You could find out all about her research and all about her at kolbe.com. She also has a podcast out there called Perfectly Obstinate People. You can go and check that out wherever you listen to podcasts. That's an interesting one. This is one of the books that I've read by her, Conative Connection, Acting on Instinct. This is a pretty good primer. She has a few other books, and I've heard other people say that those are also good for first-timers when it comes to learning all about conation. And her basic concept comes from 4 different action modes that we all have. But there's going to be ones that you perform better at, and there's going to be ones that you actually not only perform less at, but you perform almost the negative end of those action modes. So let me tell you about them real quick. There's 4 of them. These are my levels right here. It's a 4, 4, 8, and a 3. And these are 4 modes. I'm sure you can't read it where you're at, but this first one's a fact finder, follow through, quick start, and implementer. Okay, those are the 4 modes. Let me explain to you what those are, and you can kind of get a feel for which one you think you might be a little bit higher on. Fact finder is, I'm reading this right out of the book, precise, judicious, and thorough. This mode deals with detail and complexity, seeking to be both objective and appropriate. Keen at observing and gathering information, people who lead with this mode sometimes discover that information, facts, means more to them than to others. Sometimes they could be too judicious, seeming overly cautious as they wait for more data. Okay, that's the fact finder mode. So whether you feel like you're more that way or less that way will determine about where you would be in that red level there. The second mode is called follow through. So think about this and how, whether you relate with this or whether you know someone, you work with someone who seems a lot more this way than you are. Follow through is methodical and systematic. This mode is focused and structured and brings order and efficiency. People who lead with this mode are meticulous at planning, programming, and designing, and predictability is essential to their being. Every organization needs people who lead with this strength in their operations, accounts receivable, and design functions. Obviously, there are times when an intense need for order can get out of hand. That's the follow-through mode. So people who are high in this follow-through mode. It's funny, the person that pops into my mind, because I'm relatively low on follow-through. You can see it's a 4 right there, and that's relatively low. I'm thinking of someone, my friend Joanne, who works for one of my clients. She is extremely high in follow through, and she handles a lot of the bookkeeping and stuff. It's very useful at times. At other times, it almost seems over the top how specific she can be about things. But that's the follow through mode. The third mode is quick start. You can see I'm very high in quick start. This is an 8 level here, and that's what I relate mostly with. With an affinity toward risk, this mode is spontaneous and intuitive, flexible, and fluent with ideas. People who lead with this mode are deadline and crisis-oriented. They need an atmosphere of challenge and change, and sometimes they can be impatient. So that's very, I have the most of that level. And here's the implementer mode, the fourth mode. These people are hands-on and craft-oriented. This mode brings tangible qualities to actions. People who lead with this mode have a strong sense of three-dimensional form and substance and the ability to deal with the concrete. So, out of these 4 modes, people tend to be a little bit stronger in 1 or 2 of these than others. Every once in a while, you'll find somebody who is more in the middle of all of them. You have a little bit of all of these things, and that's determined as she calls that a facilitator. And these are people that get along with just about anybody, and they can help fill in the cracks when they're at different positions, either in jobs or as a business owner. They can do a little bit of everything, and so they're really good if you're a business owner and you find you don't need a whole lot of extra people to be able to help you out. You can kind of do a little bit of everything, and so you're very stable on your own. They tend to be more facilitators. So how would you find out where you are on these levels? You'd go and take a test over at Kolbe.com. It's called the Kolbe Index A. I believe that's what it's called. It was called that when I took it. It cost a little bit to take. I don't know what it costs right now. At the time I did it, I think it was $50, but it is one of the most useful tests that I've ever taken. I've learned the most about me and what makes me tick. And these are numbers. The strange things about these numbers is they don't change heavily over time. As long as you're in a stable position in terms of your career, you tend to test pretty well at this. If you're a little bit of influx and you don't quite know where you are in the world when it comes to your business or your career, I've heard that your numbers can be a little bit off. But overall, this is something that she claims you can actually see in a baby. You can see in children. And since I've been learning about this, I can see with my children where they land, at least on the high points on these things. It's very interesting because it follows you your entire life. It's kind of hardwired in your brain, your conative mode. This can change how you handle employees if you're a business owner and you have employees. If you deal with coworkers, this is extremely useful. Look into the Kolbe Index and Conative. The Conative end of things can really make a huge difference in your business, in your job, and so forth. If you are a business owner or an executive, and if you happen to be in the self-reliance field, you're someone I'd like to talk to, go to dreambizchat.com. If you found any of this interesting or any of my other talks interesting, go to dreambizchat.com. Watch the video there. It's 8.5 minutes. Give you an idea of what it would be like for us to be able to sit down and talk about your business, and maybe I can help take it from where it's at, as successful as it may be, and take it to that dream business, that perfect ideal that you're really after in your business. So go there, check it out. Go check out Kathy Kolbe. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the Learn, Do, Teach cycle. I've mentioned it in the past. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into it tomorrow. This affects everybody, and I bet it can improve you and your business. So you have a great night, and get out there and let the magic happen.